On the outskirts of the city, down by the filth-ridden quay, a young mother clung desperately to her sickly daughter. Her other youth was not nearly as ill, if only by luck. She stood over her mother and sister, watching through frantic blue eyes as life slowly depleted from her beloved sibling. She knew better by this point than to ask if Cynthia was going to be all right. She knew that none of them were.
Pardon my intrusion, miss, but I do believe that I might be of some assistance.
A voice called out from 3 yards away. The destitute woman shot up, her dying child still listless within the confines of her lap. With the look of great terror written in her brown, doe-like eyes, she extended her hand to her older child.
Marcy, come here.
With a decisive nod that caused her dirty brown pigtails to bounce, the girl stood protectively between what remained of her broken family and this stranger.
Marcy!
The mother protested to this, her wail causing the child in her lap to stir and moan ever so marginally. Marcy's eyes narrowed fearlessly in the direction of this new threat. She was determined to protect her kin, even though deep down she knew that she indeed had no means of doing so. The man walked closer. He was clothed in a tawny jerkin and dark brown slacks. Heavy boots encrusted with mud and soil made squashing sounds with every step he took upon the rainy dirt road. There was also a thin dark bronze hood up over his head, tapering down his well-muscled shoulder. Marcy squinted her eyes to get a better look at the odd symbol he had embroidered in gold into the neck of his jerkin. It was a diamond shape, with 2 lines extending from the middle, crossing over one another. It was not a symbol that the child had ever seen before.
You are indeed a brave lass. That's good. This city needs bravery right now.
The man chuckled. His voice seemed welcoming. It offered a comfort that was now all but gone from Marcy's life.
What do you want from us?
The mother summoned her courage and spoke. She was so weak now. She hadn't eaten in weeks. The woman doubted that she could even bring herself to stand, let alone fight this interloper off. But she had to try.
Peace, dear lady. I come bringing tidings of hope and new beginnings.
The man removed his hood, and scraggly brown hair bounced free of its confines. His eyes were a deep green, with tints of rusty brown. A genuine smile bloomed across his youthful face.
Allow me to properly introduce myself. I am Dawson, son of Jeremiah Landon, founder of the Growers.
The mother nearly stood at his statement.
The heretics.
She shivered, clutching her daughter ever tighter.
Yes, that is how our order is known to most. A bitter nickname given to us by our enemies. I assure you, miss, these rumors are nothing but. There is not even the smallest shred of truth to them.
Oh, so you're saying you aren't branched out from those evil pagans, then?
She sneered. Dawson remained strangely calm at her harsh words.
The pagans were the ones to fuel these rumors you speak of. While it is true that my ancestors used to be part of their sect, this was a mistake. Nature and technology can coexist. Why, well, actually.
I'm not interested in your disgusting ways or your bizarre cult.
She coughed up some blood as she ranted. Noticing this, Dawson extended a hand to her.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
You appear deathly ill, as does your child.
The mother's eyes began to gyrate in rage.
How dare you? Of course we are! We're dying! What's it to you?
She exclaimed, forgetting temporarily that she had vowed not to mention death in the presence of her children. Instantly, she cupped her dirty hand up over her mouth and began to sob.
Oh, Marcy. Cynthia, I'm so sorry.
She wept. Dawson reached into the folds of his fur-lined pouch and procured a small wooden flask. He bent forward and uncorked the lid. Whilst the mother was still distracted, he poured the smallest drop past Cynthia's cracked lips.
Hey! What are you doing to my sister?
Marcy squawked, grabbing her mother's attention. Pushing him away, she held up her daughter's head as Cynthia began to cough.
You fiend! What the hell did you just taffing do to my baby?
Dawson watched his reflection shimmer within the cyan irises of the child as they opened for the first time in days.
Mother?
Cynthia asked, her voice almost completely inaudible from a mixture of sickness and dehydration.
Cynthia! Oh, Cynthia!
The relieved woman burst into more tears as she gripped the weak young girl to her breasts. Dawson watched the heartwarming scene unfold with a smile. However, he knew that if these good people stood any chance of making a full recovery, they would need more of the aid only his faction could offer.
Thank you, good stranger. I am sorry I misjudged you. You've brought my baby back from death's door. I am forever in your debt.
Unfortunately, miss, neither she nor your other daughters are anywhere close to being saved. Time is short, and the illness your family suffers is undoubtedly spreading.
What should we do?
The mother demanded, dire need contorting across her face.
Come with me. Join my order. That medicine I gave your daughter, the life juice that restored her from a horrible fate, is just one example of what I spoke of. How nature and technology can fluidly coexist. If you and your children want to not only live, but to enjoy the life that has been gifted to you, then come with me.
I shall.
She nodded. Dawson stepped forward and helped the bony woman to her feet, leaning on him for support while he carried Cynthia in his arms. The forgotten family was led out of the quay into their bright future. Garrett sat at his table again, mulling over the documents he had swiped a while back from Orion during Guinevere's last out of the tower training session. Most were little more than scribbled notes, impossible to understand. But one lengthy report did catch his interest.
Huh.
Huh? What?
Guinevere leaned over him, taking a look at the yellowed parchment.
Apparently, Helena now owns a quarter of all the Baron's factories. I guess a backbiting bitch can really find a niche for herself in this city.
Garrett, about her? I'm sorry for not listening to you. I'm sorry that I thought she was nice.
The thief cast his eyes up to her and shook his head.
You didn't know any better. Hell, even I thought she was trustworthy at one point. Helena is very manipulative.
What did she do to you, Garrett?
The thief glowered at her.
She sold me out. Thought I already explained that.
You did. I just always assumed that there was more to it than that.
Guinevere inquired.
Not really. I found what I thought was a new fence. She told the guards about me. The end.
Oh.
Guinevere sidestepped towards the window, taking a moment to look down to the world below.
Hey! It looks like there's something happening down there.
She called.
Guinevere, there's always something happening down there. It's a city.
Yes, but I don't recall anyone ever setting the city on fire before.
The thief sprung from his chair, knocking over the crate in the process. Placing his hands upon the window ledge, he leered downwards. Hues of orange and red registered within the reflection of his false optic, while his left eye widened in disbelief. Guinevere was indeed correct. The city was ablaze. The thief reeled in horror at the sight of the ravenous flames eating away at the homes that stood dangerously close to the clock tower.
Guinevere, grab the cat. We need to get out of here, now.
The young woman did not argue. Taking up Pilfer within her loving arms, she tailed her mentor as he made escape preparations. Garrett halted before a large iron chest and threw it open with a grunt. Inside were extra arrows and small boxes of processed food. Guinevere slowly approached and plucked a single, light blue petal from the storage.
What's this?
Garrett whirled around and yanked the cyan flora from her fingertips.
Nothing. Don't touch that.
He ordered. Guinevere stared at him, positively speechless. He hadn't yelled at her like that since the beginning of her training. She watched with empty eyes as he crumbled up the dried petal within his hand, letting the dusty remains sprinkle down to the floorboards. With the slightest of tremors, the thief stuffed the last of his supplies away within his knapsack. He stood frozen for a moment, eyes transfixed on the tiny blue flecks at his feet.
Garrett, are you alright?
She offered, growing visibly more concerned.
Guinevere, forgive me. I didn't mean to yell at you.
He apologized with a deep sigh.
I was worried about what's happening down there.
The young woman played along, although in reality she didn't buy a word of it. She knew that whatever had caused the sudden outburst had nothing to do with what was going on in the city. Garrett had never cared about that place.
It's okay. Anyway, don't worry. If anyone tries to arrest you, I'll stop them.
She giggled. Garrett looked at her with a slightly disturbed smirk.
Just try to remember what I told you about killing.
Only if they richly deserve it. Gotcha.
She winked. Garrett looked up at the ceiling. His entire world had been plunged into insanity since meeting Guinevere. This seemingly innocent girl was becoming more like an insidious curse with every passing day, and yet Garrett could not bring himself to believe this. He genuinely cared about her, and he refused to believe that any of this was linked to her. That any of this was her fault. Even if it was, Guinevere wouldn't have been the wiser, and he knew it. His rapidly beating heart was now the only thing the thief could feel. He honestly had no idea what leaving his tower would mean. Would it even remain standing upon his return? He felt uneasy, dread slowly building within his stomach. Somehow, Garrett knew that this feeling was a warning of things yet to come. And these things involved his Guinevere. His eyes gleamed with greed and triumph as he ran his hands over his precious collection, possibly for the last time. But one item in particular caught his attention. It was the small, copper ring atop the pedestal. Garrett picked up the object and lovingly traced the intricate bronze band between his fingers. It wasn't an object of any value, although at the time he had taken it, he hadn't been the wiser. For this tiny, unassuming ring had been the very first object a master thief had ever stolen.
Come on, Garrett. We need to go.
Guinevere's pleas urged him forward. Garrett hustled to fill his knapsack with as many remaining treasures as it would hold, before turning to exit the clock tower with her. The metallic blue machines tore through the city, members of Aldous' Graven following in their wake. Helena took satisfactory pleasure in watching one of her creations smash a member of the City Watch against the cobblestone. She smiled at Aldous.
The trick to catching vermin is to force them to run out of hiding places. Then you squash them.
Impressive. So that's what you've been using your new factories to create?
The middle-aged man stroked his tangled beard.
More or less.
She shrugged, flipping a strand of her blonde hair up over her shoulders. She was sweltering within her leather catsuit now, the figure-hugging garment growing even tighter than before. Her accomplice leaned into her, crossing his arms.
So, how do these metal beings of yours work?
Helena didn't miss a beat. She moved into him, wrapping her ankle around his unsuspecting calf. Aldous gasped as the mechanist pressed her finger to his lips.
Shh. It's a secret.
Without waiting for him to reply, she thrust her knee into his unsuspecting groin. He winced and slumped to his knees in pain.
And I don't appreciate being asked to expose my secrets. After all, I barely know you, Aldous.
She giggled mischievously as his eyes glazed over. Turning her attention up towards the majestic clock tower, Helena's dark red lips curved into a demented grin. Now that her inventions had tracked Garrett down, she would not allow him to escape her clutches with Guinevere. The blood of that sickly sweet abomination was rightfully a mechanist's property.
There's nowhere left to run, last mother.